Okay, what we're going to do today is solve systems by substitution. Last week we solved systems by graphing, and as you can see, we will highlight graphing is one way to solve a systems of equations. The other methods are substitution, and elimination. Okay. Substitution is a system of equations, is sometimes indicated by the use of a bracket, but sometimes you are simply told the set in a system. All right. Substitution method. We have, for example, part 1. The y values are the same. They're equal. If you replace the y values with equivalent expressions, substitution, then you solve for x. Now, the system of equations that we started with was y equals 2x minus 4 and y equals negative 3x plus 1. When you see a systems of equations like this, you know that the y values are the same and they are equal. So you simply just set the equations equal to each other. And then you solve for x. And you get x equals 1. Now you choose one of the original equations and substitute 1 for x and then solve for y. So in this example, they chose y equals 2x minus 4, plugged in 1 here, and then solved for y. You write your final answer as an ordered pair because it is the point of intersection. So your x value is 1 and your y value is negative 2. Now we're going to move on to the bottom part here. Your paper looks a little different from mine because I'm using some Apple products here, and so I might have to rewrite some equations here. All right. So for B, you have the system y equals 6x plus 4. And then you have y equals 4x minus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to, because y equals the same thing, we're going to set these equations equal to each other. So we have 6x plus 4 equals 4x minus 2. And your ultimate goal here is to solve for x and y. And if you look at the equation now, you know that you are solving for what variable? You are solving for x first. So we go ahead and solve for x, and you should get 2x equals negative 6, x equals negative 3. Now at this point, you have your x value And now we need to figure out your y value. So you're going to take your x value here and plug it in here so you can solve for y. Y equals 6 times negative 3 plus 4. Y equals negative 18 plus 4 is going to give you a negative 14. Remember, your final answer has to be written as an ordered pair because that is the point of intersection. So your final answer is negative 3, negative 14. Okay, now what I would like for you to do is to do the you try part. I would like for you to do number 1, y equals 4x plus 3, and y equals negative x minus 2. I want you to do number 1, and then I would like for you to try number 2. Also, y equals 1/3 x minus 3, and y equals negative x plus 1. Now, before you begin, remember what you're doing here is you're setting these equations equal to each other. Y equals the same thing, so go ahead. Remember, you're going to set 4x plus 3 equals negative x minus 2. And what variable will you be solving for there? You'll be solving for your x variable. After you solve for x, plug it back into the original equation to get your y values. And your final answer has to be written in as an ordered pair. So right now would be a good time to pause and try to do numbers 1 and 2 by yourself. Okay, after you've done your work, for number 1 on the you try part, you should have gotten negative 1, negative 1 as your x and y value. For number 2, you should have gotten 1 and 0. As your ordered pair. Now, if you did not get these correct, I would turn to your peer buddy, and go ahead and check your work and ask each other some questions. If you still can't figure out what you did wrong then you need to join my group, and I will help you figure out what you did incorrectly. Okay. And now, sometimes the equations are not written so that x or y is by itself. You may need to translate the equation to get x or y by itself. So what you need to do is you need to decide whether it's easier to write each equation in equivalent y equals mxb form or the equivalent x equals ky plus c form. Then we write each equation in the form you chose. So I'm going to walk you through numbers 1 through 3, and then I'm going to let you do 4, 5, and 6 by yourself. Number 1, the easiest form to use for number 1 is x equals ky plus c. So when I translate this first one, the first one's going to be x equals negative y plus 3. Number 2, I'm going to use the same form, x equals y minus 5. Number 3, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b form. So that one's going to be y equals negative 2x minus 1. Go ahead and do 4, 5, and 6. Okay, guys, so what we should have here is number 1. You should have, I would have chosen the x equals ky plus c form, and you would have gotten x equals negative y plus 3. And we've already gone over those. So we're back to number 4. X equals 2y plus 8. Number 5, y equals negative 3 halves x plus 2. And number 6, y equals x plus 5 halves. If you did not get those answers, please turn to your peer buddy and work out and see maybe where you went wrong. If you still do not see your error, you need to join my group in the back, and we will go over what we did, where the error might have occurred. Remember to please show all of your work so that I can see how to help you correct your answers. Okay, now we're on to part 3. Part 3, substitution does not mean that all equations need to be written as y equals or x equals. Substitution means that an expression is being replaced for one that is equivalent. Solving for the first equation for y, for example, let's look at, I'm sorry, I went too quickly. Let's look at the first system. 3x minus y equals 5. 2x plus 5y equals negative 8 is equivalent to the system y equals 3x minus 5, 2x plus 5y equals 8. Solving the first equation for y is relatively easy because the coefficient, which means the number before the x or y value, is negative 1. The second equation does not have a coefficient of 1 or negative 1 for x or y. It is possible to solve for y, but it is not the easiest method. So what you want to do is write the second equation, the equation you did not solve for a single variable. Replace 3x plus 5 for y because they are equivalent expressions, and then you solve for x. Choose one of the original equations, not the equation that you rearrange. Substitute 1 for x and then solve for y. Write your final answer as an ordered pair because it is the point of intersection. Alright, so I'm going to do letters B and C with you. And then I'm going to let you do numbers 1 through 6 with your peer buddy. Alright, so the system that we're solving for right now is x plus y equals 3. X minus y equals 5. Step 1, I'm going to rewrite any of the equations to make substitution easier. So this first one, I'm going to rewrite as x equals negative y plus 3. This second one, I'm going to rewrite as x equals y minus 5. Now I chose that way to translate them because I have x by itself here, and the 2x values equal each other, so all I need to do here is set this equation equal to this one. Now step 2, negative y plus 3 equals y minus 5. And then we are going to solve for y. Now I solve for y. I get negative 2y equals negative 8. Y equals positive 4. Now we're going to plug in positive 4, y equals positive 4, back into one of the original equations. Now again, I am not going to look at the equations in pink, but my equations in black, because those are the original equations. So now I'll plug in 4 for y. I'm choosing this first equation here. I have x plus 4 equals 3. X equals negative 1. My final answer is negative 1, 4. Number 2. The system for number 2 is 2x plus y equals negative 1. X minus 2y equals 12. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite one of the equations so that it's easier to solve. The first one I'm going to rewrite is the first equation here. I'm going to rewrite it as y equals negative 2x minus 1. At this point, I'm going to reevaluate my next step, and my next step is to plug in this expression, the pink expression, y equals negative 2x minus 1, in for y into this equation here. So I'm plugging in x minus 2 times negative 2x minus 1 equals 12. All I did here is I took this expression in pink, which is equal to y, and plugged it in for y into this equation here to get x minus 2 times negative 2x minus 1 equals 12. Now you think to yourself, which variable or what value am I solving for? Right now I'm solving for x. So the first thing I need to do is I need to distribute the negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2x is a positive 4x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. Then I bring down what is left. Now I have 5x plus 2 equals 12. Bring the 2 over. I have 5x equals 10. X equals 2. At this point, I'm going to plug in x for 2. I'm going to plug in 2 for x into one of the original black equations here. And then that'll help me solve for y. So I'm choosing this equation here, the second one. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but I am going to choose the second one. I'm going to plug in 2 for x, then rewrite what I have left. I solve for y, and y equals negative 5. My final answer I write it as an ordered pair is 2, -5. Now what I would like for you to do is to do the you try 1 through 6. You can do it independently or with a peer buddy. Once you're finished, please press play and check your work. At this time, you need to press pause and move on to the you try. Okay, now to the answers. Now on to the answers for, let me erase this here real quick. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. All right, now for the answers to number 1 through 6 on the you try. Number 1, you should have gotten -10, -5. Number 2 was actually no solution because your variables canceled. 6x, or just depending on which one you started with, when your variables cancel and you get 0, then your solution is either going to be no solution or an identity. It depends on if the equations equal each other, okay? Number 3, I'm sorry guys, I can't really get rid of this up here, so I'm just going to have to do your best here. Number 3, you should have gotten x equals 15 halves and y equals 11 halves. Okay. Number 4, you should have gotten 11, 3. Number 5, you should have gotten 3, 2. And then number 6, you should have gotten an identity equation. Your variables canceled on number 10, and so you were left with 10 equals 10. When that happens, that means both sides of the equation equal each other, and that's an identity equation. Identity systems of equation. Now, if you're finished and you've gotten all these correct, I do recommend that you move on to the homework for tonight. I am going to walk you through some practice for Unit 5, Law of Exponents, and then I would start on your homework. If you have any questions, check with a peer buddy and check your work to see what you've gotten wrong. If you still are not clear, please come see me for the group in the back.